Hello, this is an introduction to a new series of videos I would like to provide regarding people interested in getting started with creating for Second Life. All of my tutorials will be based on my own personal perspective, how I learned, and what has worked for me personally. I'm not an expert, sponsor, or anything official for SL or the programs I use. I'm just an average resident who started a long time ago from nothing and worked my way to where I am today. And most of the resources um, are completely free except for, I think, two things that I use. One program I use, I do subscribe to per month, and I do pay for my .com for my website. But there are free options to those as well. To tell you a bit more about me, my name is Erie Ember in Second Life. I started in SL a really long time ago on an older account, way back in January 2006. So, long time ago. As soon as I joined, I was already resin prims in a sandbox. I had fallen in love with the freedom of being able to express your imagination with the creator tools provided in SL, in and out of SL. I also fell in love with seeing what other creators were making, and through inspiration and my own personal dreams, I have strived to create and maintain a presence in the creator community with many endeavors in SL, which include my store, my current store, Aries Dollhouse. I also used to own my own graphic design studio, but I got too busy with my store to keep it open. So, um, this video series is also really strongly inspired by years of helping friends, having friends come to me and ask questions, and wanting to show them everything right on the spot, but not having time. It's just been a long time coming, and it's finally time for me to just do it. So, that being said, I would just like to remind you I am not an expert at any of this, and I don't study the science and math of these programs I use or the technicalities behind the platform of SL, like everything on the developer end and all of that stuff. I am a right brain artist. I don't have a head for all of that. I just kind of learn as much as I can to do what I need and want to do. So I'm just showing you what works for me. I'm simply an average person who is a passionate artist with my main creative outlet being digital content online and for Second Life. So it's as simple as that. Keep in mind, this won't be anything fancy as I am a full-time creator and I don't have a ton of spare time, but this series will attempt to take you through the basic workflow that I've been following myself for over 5 years now, from programs to creating to getting the work into SL and running a business and more. So it's kind of just a little window into what I've been doing, what's been working for me, and areas that I even wish to improve on as I continue to learn myself. So to be specific, in this series, I want to cover tutorials on some of the following. Graphic design, that's going to be a big area of information that will include, I will probably try to focus on the two most popular programs, Photoshop, which I do pay for, and GIMP, which is completely free, a free option. Also, this will include things like image editing. This window here is Photoshop, so I have some things open in here. I will cover image editing for business and creating for SL purposes. Texture creating, I am a texture creator, so I do create textures for buildings in Second Life. So this, for example, is a package of wallpapers. I will go over some of the basics on how I create some basic textures. Also, logo design, for anyone who has a business, they are going to want a visual interface, a branding identity, which would include a logo. First and foremost, that represents, who you are, what you do, what you love, and I feel that maybe it could help knowing some tips on that, how to do that better, or just getting started if you've never done it before. Also, this includes advertisements, website graphics. If you want to start a blog or a website and you want to create your own icons or images, whatever. Store graphics, which would include vendor templates. This, for example, is a vendor template. This is what I use to present all of my products. And this is something that if I had a vendor machine in my store in Second Life, I would use this picture on the front of the vendor as well, as on the web too. So I'll cover that, including gacha keys, which gachas are a really big popular activity going on in SL right now, and I had to struggle a bit through learning how to do nice gacha keys, which present the items clearly in a nice template. It's been a process for me. It's not perfect yet, but I can show you at least what I know about that if that interests you. Also, use of color. I want to talk a lot about color, the use of color in Second Life, because oftentimes, you go around SL and you see eyesores and things that are hard to read, and just don't work very well. So I want to cover how I use color in Second Life through my graphics, my everything, my designs, my textures. I also want to go over some of the basic formats for social media, as well as the Second Life Marketplace, which is like an online version of the in-world store front. So there are some, typical sizes and formats for when you want to upload your logo or your vendor templates and ads for these places as well, like Facebook, Pinterest, like I said, Second Life Marketplace. So when I do talk about graphics, I will try to include those formats, keeping those in mind. I also want to talk about how to find public domain resources. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of how to do that. There is a big ethical issue with content that is created for SL specifically that violates terms of service and copyrights in and out of SL. So as a creator who is such an advocate for doing things legally and, creating your own original work where you can, or at least having the rights to resources that you use, I do want to focus heavily on using public domain where you can. Where you can't create your own piece of work, at least have the full rights to use whatever stock resources you are using. I do want to focus on that because a lot of creators are under the impression that you can just jump onto Google, search, and grab any image you want from Google search and use that in your design. But that is really, really the wrong way to go. So I'm going to incorporate that where I can in this series. I also want to go over some basics of photography, taking photographs in SL and how to play with those in Photoshop and also in some online tools, like online web tools, to make those look nice. I want to cover mesh basics, which is another huge section that I'll go over. The basics of creating, typical and pretty basic mesh objects for Second Life. So my personal area of experience thus far does focus on home and garden, furnishings, furniture, static, and unrigged objects. So this is not going to be for the clothing creator per se. I will go over what little I know about rigging, and I do know how to do shoes at this point. I am still trying to polish the clothing, the rigged clothing and fit mesh process. But that is a goal of mine. So, I'll just share what I know at this point. But there are other people out there who are covering clothing far better and in more detail. So, yeah. Uh, so, let's see, Mesh, that will include learning Blender because I use Blender, which is free. It'll include the modeling of the objects, how to build the objects, texturing them, uploading them to Second Life, how to handle them, the objects once they're in world, land impact, all of those things. I'll talk about what I've learned so far. I also want to cover the web and social media. So part of being a creator for Second Life now heavily relies upon things like blogs, social networking, um, as ways to connect to the community and gain exposure and just to keep your customers up to date on what's going on with you. So, having a website and or at least a blog is pretty important nowadays, and having a Facebook for your Second Life, having a store page on Facebook for your store, things like that, or for your business. It doesn't have to be a store, it can be a service you offer. This includes all business aspects of SL. So I want to go over that too, talk about free platforms that are there to use for your business, free website builders, things like that. I also want to talk about just the basics of simply running a business in SL. I'll go over that in a special series, from having a storefront in World, looking for land, having a presence on the marketplace, the Second Life marketplace, to getting involved in events, because events happen to be a big part of, getting your business out there nowadays. Including hunts, gotcha events, sale events, things like that. And also I want to cover being organized, how to stay organized as a creator for Second Life, because that in itself can be such a big chore. I mean, keeping up with dates, keeping lists of what you have going on, projects, the progress you've made, storing your files, in world organization in your inventory, because if you don't get a good grip on it from the start, it can become a nightmare. So I want to do a series of videos that just focuses on strictly on organization. And lastly, as an area I want to cover will be resources for help. So I want to just share, ways that I learned, places I learned from. It's been a long process, a long journey. I'm self-taught on all of this, at least doing it for Second Life. I did go to school for some of the things I know, like using Photoshop and, ages ago, and graphic design and stuff like that. But, for SL, I am self-taught. It's been hard. There hasn't always been a person there to ask a question to. It's been a lot of digging up resources, blogs, articles, videos, anything. So I want to share what I know so far to maybe help that be a little easier for someone else. And this would also include other people on YouTube. And also, once again, just to reiterate the importance of ethics, keeping ethics a priority in your practice of creating for SL. So, making sure the resources you use, such as stock images, textures, patterns, shapes, whatever, are legal for you to use for your commercial use. Fonts, lots of things. I want to help to create an awareness for that, because I don't feel there's enough of an awareness out there for ethics. So, I will just end this by saying there are, of course, many other awesome videos out there that will cover a lot of what I do. So please don't feel limited to what you find with me. I have learned from some of the best, and I just wish to contribute to a community where I honestly feel that transparency and help from creators is sorely lacking. There should be more help with bridging the gap between people who want to create for SL but can't find some of the most basic help with how to do it, specifically for SL. and, getting to where you want to be. A lot of the tutorials out there focus on creating for other platforms or purposes, using Photoshop or Blender for other games or places, or even, for print or whatever. And some things just don't apply for creating for SL. So I want to focus on SL. I also don't claim to know as much as I want to yet, so let that be known. Even though I've been doing this for years and some of it is like second nature, I, along with my work, am always evolving and learning as I go. So feel free to let me know if you see something that can help me too. Something that I don't notice, something that I'm not aware of, an update, whatever. There are oftentimes creating for SL, what you realize is that whether you're creating an advertisement, an event flyer, you know, cutting out, editing a photograph of your products to try to figure out how to get it into a vendor template, there are multiple ways usually to achieve what you're trying to do. So I'm just going to cover what works for me, but there are tons of other videos out there with people who, um, you know, show their way that works for them, and that might be what's better for you. So um, I hope that you enjoy the upcoming series, and good luck. Thank you.